Welcome to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show with me, Jess Tomlinson. Interviews to inspire a new movement of leaders and entrepreneurs. The ones who lead with vulnerability and authenticity, stand in visibility, allowing themselves to truly be seen, are fierce and playful and sexy. Choose business as a spiritual practice. Seek collaboration versus competition. No, giving back is not an option. It's a necessity. They do it their way. They radiate. They rise. Now, let's rise together. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show. I am Jess Tomlinson, and I am really excited to have episode 13 be a special new friend that I was introduced to by one of our previous guests on the show, Allie Daniel. And welcome, Maggie. Hey, I'm so excited to dive in and learn more about you. And she, from what I've read on her website, you have a magical journey and really what it looks like, and I can't wait to go down this path, have gone down your own spiritual path as an entrepreneur, which is one of the main intentions of this show, is to really explore that. So thank you so much for just being here and leaning into trust. So we were just setting intentions before the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for acknowledging the journey that I did go on.
Mm.
I went on a journey for about 10 years to really get to where I am, and I'm still journeying through deeper layers of myself and deeper layers of consciousness itself, so that I can be as free and as full as I possibly can.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm excited to talk more about that, because I think that, as entrepreneurs, we are always, whether we want to or not, evolving and growing just naturally by being in this line of work. It definitely takes a lot. So thanks for being willing to. Yeah.
I didn't realize, I'll be honest. I used to work at a corporate job, and I've been saying recently that if I knew it was going to be this hard, I don't know if I would have done it. And of course I would have, because it was always my soul calling. But wow, no one really tells you how much personal work and personal evolution and shedding of what doesn't serve you is necessary to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I don't know if I would have either. Maybe. I like a challenge, but it has been a lot harder than I thought it would be as well. And I was really good at my corporate job in marketing and branding, and I actually really liked my corporate job. It just was I liked it, and I know this is part of your work, right? Is but I wanted even more. It was just that tiny little bit of misalignment, meaning that I was supporting these companies that there were certain things about them that I was if this was my company, I would change this.
Yeah.
And that was really frustrating, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we have a similar journey. I was in marketing and advertising and sales, and I liked the corporate jobs too. I always felt kind of empty, and I felt like I didn't believe in what I was selling. And so to go to some office for 40 hours a week to do something that I didn't believe in, it just started to eat me alive. And literally eat me alive. Actually, my body started to eat me alive from the inside out, attack my own self, which is how I knew I had to get out. My whole body started to shut down. I was like, okay, as great as the stability is, I have to listen to my body, these messages that are telling me, please do something more aligned with your soul.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to hear more about that, but first I want to ask you the question that I intend to ask every guest, and that is, what visibility edges, and you'll love this one, I think, are you leaning into right now in your own life and business?
Ooh, what a question. I love to public speak. I've been doing it for years, and I am stepping into mixing singing with public speaking. So giving transmissions with shamanic chanting and channeled singing. So that is definitely an edge for me because I've always kept singing as a personal passion and hobby of mine. But I spoke at an event 2 weeks ago, and it was a DJ event where I opened it up to get people in their bodies and in their higher selves before the dance. And I just went with it, went with my guidance telling me to keep singing after the speaking part was over, and I did it. And so I broke through that edge, and it was really scary. It was really vulnerable. And then I made the declaration that I'm going to sing on a stage at Burning Man. And yeah. Yeah. And I told my friend about it, who's a DJ, and she's like, yep, let's start preparing the song now. So
Yes.
quick.
Oh my gosh, Maggie, I love this. Okay, so one of the big parts of my work is infusing your full range of self-expression into your marketing, your programs, like the way that you show up as a businesswoman, and how we tend to shy away from these different parts of our self-expression, you know, that we feel like doesn't belong in business, or like people might not respect or think is wrong, or, you know, whatever. There's all those like crazy gremlins, right? So the fact that you did this, I am loving it. I am so loving it. And I'm curious. So like, first I want to share with you that I can relate, because I did this one time in a talk that I gave. And I was really, really, really leaning into my self-expression at the time. Like I was doing channeled like spoken word poetry, and then I was pushing myself to dance on stage and do like interpretive dancing. and, and then I did this talk where I opened up for one of my dear friends, Alexia Vernon, who's a public speaking coach, and she has a speaking program. And she's like, Jess, will you open the talks before the women who've gone through this program get on stage and share their voices? And I'm like, would you be weirded out if I like do, like, I'm just getting this hit that I'm supposed to sing the Willy Wonka song, and now I can't even remember what it's called. Oh, come with me and you'll see, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. And then like, so I sang that, and then I went into my talk and I was like shaking the whole time. And yeah, it was so liberating. So I'm curious, like, tell me, like, first of all, like, what prompted you to do that? Like, how did you get to that point where you were like, all right, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go with this?
Well, the type of singing and music that I do is very transmissional. It's the state in which my channel is the most open. It would be like speaking and then singing. I get into this altered state. I'm able to receive higher guidance in a way that I'm not able to in any other method. And so what's becoming really clear is that I really want to take my sessions with my clients, turn the session into, I extract the main highlight points, and then from the main highlight points, I layer DJ tracks with it, and then shamanic chants over it. So as that has becoming more clear, I then got asked to speak at this event. And so I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to take this as an opportunity to just like bring another layer of that in now, even though the whole vision is not quite there yet. My DJ skills are not where they need to be. I know that's kind of in the future, but I'm still just going to step further into that vision in this speaking set. And it was a really chill atmosphere. It was very like jam sesh, open mic, open dance floor. So I was like, you know what, this is the time. And I really like to just push through my edges. I know that if I'm stagnant and stuck, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm like across the board, all my charts say like freedom, forward movement, like I can't stay still. So I know that I sometimes need to just push myself a little to get over those edges. And once I'm over the edge, I can smooth sail for a bit, and until I get to another edge, and then I just keep going and going and going. So it was like, it was clarity on the vision that I want to step into to bridge music with my coaching. Just pushing myself through that edge to like start now.
Yes. Ah, I love Sages, by the way, so I'm not surprised that you're a Sag. I'm an Aquarius. I feel like
We do
Sagittarius, like, yeah. So I really am appreciating that about you. Like, bringing in these parts of yourself. Like, you feel like a very creative woman to me. And I believe that all of us as entrepreneurs, even if it might show up in different ways, we all have this unique edge of creativity. And we hold back sometimes so much for fear of, like, oh, this won't fit in, or, what if it doesn't work, or what if it's weird? But I really want to honor you and, like, solidify this moment as an opportunity for all of us to remember that doing that, it feels like to me, and I'm curious your perspective on this, like, it's liberating for you.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you
And that,
probably get acknowledged, right, by other people. Like, they're noticing this resonance about you, and that's what you want with your potential clients as well.
yes. And liberation, freedom are my main
Mm-hmm.
purposes in this lifetime within myself and to provide for the world. And so a lot of my singing and speaking really is about creating that safe space for others to liberate themselves. So really all that I do each time, it's providing the space for them to see where they're not liberated and then create pathways for liberation instantly. um,
Mm-hmm.
and that is my greatest purpose in this lifetime, is to provide people with the tools to be free.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, I want to hear more of your own journey. Like, I was reading on your website um, about you going and studying in Peru, which I deeply resonate with. I went on a journey to Peru on my 30th birthday, so 5 years ago. Um, and it just completely changed my life. So I'd love to hear just more about, like, how did that journey get sparked, and what did you receive during that time?
Wow. Well, I'll start by saying that before I found personal development work and consciousness, traveling, international travel especially, was my passion. It was the thing that made me feel alive. My whole life, I was like, "What's my passion? I don't love anything," until I turned like 18, and I was like, "Oh, I can. My passion is travel." And so I took myself all around the world, and I worked in advertising and sales internationally too. My first job out of college, and it didn't feel on purpose. And so I came home and I ended up joining a corporate job, and that we talked about a little bit earlier. And once again, it didn't fulfill me. So I quit and I went to India. So backtrack a little, before Peru, I went to India for 6 months by myself. And that was, if we're going to talk about international soul journeys, I got to share that one, because that
Wow.
was the first time I was able to actually live with an open heart. So I got my yoga certification, which ripped my heart wide open. And then I went on a 10-day silent meditation retreat called Tujita up in Dharamsala, with the first time having an open heart. And then I was in silence. So all of my stuff was brought to the surface, looked at, released. I was crying, bawling my eyes out every day. People would break their silence to come up to me and say, "Are you okay? I just have to ask you." And I'd be like, "Yes, I'm okay." And they're like, "Wow, your journey is so beautiful. Thank you for being so raw and letting everything move. Like, thank you, thank you." And I learned how to live open, instead of closed, and that's what India provided me with. And I learned how to trust, because I didn't really know how to trust, or how to pray, or how to connect to higher guidance. And then being there alone by myself, this blonde white woman, hearing all these horror stories, I don't like to believe in those stories, but I needed something to negate those stories. And so I remember getting off at train stations by myself with no plan. And my mentor, who I'll circle back to about Peru at the time, gave me a crystal from Peru. And I would hold the crystal. I would about to get off the train, hold the crystal, and just pray that I would be connected to the right people, and that I would be guided in the right places. And that's what taught me how to pray. So India really gave me the freedom to live with an open heart, as well as the connection to prayer. And then I came home from India, and the same mentor that gave me the crystal had been leading retreats to Peru for the past 8 years. And he too was in corporate America, transitioned out, went completely into coaching and spiritual guidance. And he said to me, "Will you come to the Peru retreat as my like support. And so I went on my first retreat to Peru with him, and we hiked Machu Picchu, and it was fantastic. I learned on that trip so much from the land on how to live as an empath. That was my lesson at that time from Peru. The mountains and the Incan rituals just really saturated me in and provided me with the deep understanding that I was like an energetic magnet, and I didn't know what an empath really was until this trip. And I remember being in a deep state and saying, like, why does everyone else get to turn their job off, but I don't? My job of like feeling energy and feeling people. And I was like, why can't I turn it off? It's not fair. Other people get to leave their jobs on Friday after work and I don't. And they're like, the mountains spoke to me, and they're like, you know, this is a gift. And I know that when you don't know how to use being an empath properly, it can be like a curse. And so just keep learning, and there are pathways, and you can identify if this is your energy or if it's not. And that was started my journey of really understanding energy in relation to others. Then a year later, I led my first retreat to Peru with him. So we went together and we led our retreat to Peru, and this time we added the Amazon. So we went to the Amazon jungle for a week, which completely changed my life. We sat with Sacred Medicine. Allie was there. And and that trip really, really, speaking of trust, which was my intention for this call, that trip really helped me out of trust, because I had all these fears around the Amazon, around bugs, around diseases, around safety. And I was about to leave. We were sitting in Iquitos, which is a city where you be bored right before you go to Peru, if you're familiar, or before the Amazon. And I'm like shaking with all these fears inside. And my mentor at the time was like, okay, so what are you going to do here? Are you going to go to the Amazon with all these fears, or are you going to let them go now? And that I was like, okay, I get it. These fears aren't actually real. Like nothing is actually threatening me right now. So I'm going to let them go, and I'm going to just choose to trust. And so I got there, and of course there was all the things that used to scare me, all the bugs and animals and just like things that I didn't know, I didn't have a formal relationship with. So I had to build it back from nothing, into trust. And I did. And I received a lot of clarity and visuals on my future that came true. And it was a very,
like
very,
what?
well, okay. You want to go like super metaphysical?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So at the time I was working on really giving up the search for a partner and an external beloved. My whole life I was like, I want a partner, I want a partner, I want a partner. And it was very clear that I needed to become the partner myself. And so I'd been doing that work for about a year. And then I got to Peru, and it was like the last final layers of that lesson needed to be moved through. And so in the jungle, I received a visual of the pattern I had been playing with men, which was dating emotionally unavailable men. And I put quotes on it because I was the one that was emotionally unavailable. And so I'd been doing the work to become emotionally available to myself, to commit to myself. And I received a visual of the pattern that I had been running with men. I'd received like I got shown all the men that I was choosing, and they were all the same pattern, and just seeing it from a bird's eye view. And then I got shown myself once I become whole and give myself my own internal beloved. I got shown an image of myself. Then I got shown an image of a man. And I didn't really think that I would meet him in this lifetime. Maybe I didn't know if I would meet him in maybe years and years and years. I didn't know. I just knew, oh wow, okay, so once I get over this pattern, which I finally got to see the bird's eye view of outside of it, finally I'm going to be this woman who's whole, and she looks like a warrior, and I'm going to be with a man like this who also is whole and warrior. And so I got home from Peru, and I went to Burning Man about a week later. And at Burning Man, I continue to unravel the layers of seeking for the external beloved and instead being the internal beloved. And I'm sitting I was staying in a U-Haul, and I'm sitting in my U-Haul one day doing this inner work to stop reaching outside for what I want and instead give it to me on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I completed a big piece of that, and I look in the mirror and I have these white feather earrings on and I'm all gold glitter everywhere. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, it's you. It's the version that I had been shown in the vision in the Amazon that I would be once I become whole and I'm no longer seeking outside myself for love. And so I sit there, I'm just crying hysterically. You know, most people at Burning Man are out there like raging their face. And I'm like deep awakening experiences, like doing deep inner work in a U-Haul. And then I'm like, okay, this is why. Like, this is why I'm choosing this, is so I can have moments like this where I can see myself in wholeness for the first time. And so I received that visual. And then a week after Burning Man, I got guidance, very strong guidance, to reach out to a friend of mine. And so I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, I'm getting guidance to message you. I don't know why, but hi. And he's like, oh, I'm having a birthday party tomorrow. Come. I go to his birthday party in the mountains of Malibu. And the first person I meet was the man that I got shown in the visual.
Wow.
Who now, a year and a half later, is my partner. And we fell in love that first night.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, you know, people that are out there trying to find their partners through any other method other than within, there's a whole nother support system out there where like you don't have to lift a finger. You just have to love yourself inside, and it can all get planned for you. And I love sharing that story so people know that that's possible.
Thanks for sharing that, Maggie. Like, I think, you know, one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and I can feel you probably are too, is, you know, it's really easy to get stuck on strategies and systems and like business, you know, all the like, yeah, you're like, oh God, okay, we're on the same path, sister. It is so easy. And it's actually like kind of addictive, right? To get into that kind, I look at it as like a spiral, because it's easy to get sucked into that as what I believe is a fear mentality of like, I must have the right system, I must have the right strategy, and like this is the business stuff I need to be focusing on. And yeah, like some of that is important, right? Like the backbone. And yet what I believe personally is even more important, and what has helped me in leaps and bounds over the last 10 years build my business and continue to like evolve and grow, is doing this type of inner work that is really easy to ignore if we're just plugging away at our computers, you know, like trying to get to the $1 million level, or, you know, whatever we're kind of like programmed to say that we want.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned this. That has been the theme of my week. I don't know about you, but this past week has been like every way that I operate, from business to love to my relationship with men and women, and everything has been like completely flipped upside down. And so the way that I work, I'm doing an online launch right now, and it's only my second launch. So I'm sitting there with like all these calendars and all this huge to-do list, not going to yoga, sitting there on my computer for 8 hours a day. My body's like, please stop. But I'm like, no, must achieve. And I'm receiving all these messages from like friends telling me like, you got to rest more in your feminine flow while you do that. To finally, I wasn't listening so much that I actually poured coffee on my computer last week.
Oh my gosh. Is your computer okay?
Working right now.
Yay.
Cross your fingers, everyone, for me. But I share because it was such a strong message of like any fear-based scarcity mindset work of like overworking in order to achieve some result or needing to like keep up with the Joneses, or whatever your reason is for working, if it's not coming from your heart, has to be stripped away, or else like you're going to end up depleted. Or I poured coffee on my computer, so I didn't reach that depletion point. So I'm grateful that I did that to myself. And the messages are just very strong with what you're talking about, of like, it's not about the end goal as much. It's about, I don't know if you mentioned this specifically, but this was my main lesson from this, is it's not so much about the end goal. It's about how you're feeling while you're doing
it. 100%.
Yeah.
100,000%. Yeah.
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 Because
Which
get there and not feel good.
Yes. Which I think is,
and still have fear.
Yeah, right? Totally. Which I think is one of the one of the reasons that it is so important to continue to, do this deeper work like you've done, and like I know I've done, and also infuse this creativity and the full self-expression of ourselves. Like one thing I want to ask you about is your photos on Instagram are just like, oh my God, tell me about those. If you guys have not met Maggie, go and find her. Is it what's your Instagram handle?
Maggiekay, life.
Life. It is Life. Okay, cool. Maggie K Life. Go check out her photos, you guys. They're just such a beautiful expression. And the question that I want to ask you is, what would you say to, because this is what I get sometimes. A lot of my clients come to me and they're like, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with my business. Like, why would I do this type of photo shoot, or this type of post, or this type of, why would I even talk about this part of myself when it's not directly tied to quote unquote what I do? So tell us a little bit about that photo shoot, why you did it, why it matters, and how it supports, what you do, and really this essence is how I see it.
So the photos on my Instagram, for those who haven't seen, they really are portraying liberation. And I'm really passionate about liberation across the board, but especially feminine liberation, female liberation. So women being completely in their power and in their beauty and in their freedom. And so the photos on my page are me and other women that are embodying that. And so, yeah, it's not so much to do with business. I don't want to take pictures of me typing on my laptop.
I'm the same. I don't think I have one photo on my Instagram of me typing on my laptop.
That is not inspiring to me. I don't like working on my laptop all day. I don't like going to the cafe working on my laptop. I do it, but that's not what drives me. That's the vehicle. But the goal is the liberation and art. I just want to be living as art. And so each photo that I share, it really tells a story of a woman, whether it's me or not, that's living her life of full free expression and living as art. And so a couple of my friends are photographers. And so whenever I get asked to do shoots, I take it as an opportunity to liberate myself more and more, because I still have blocks in front of that camera, and so I take it on as an opportunity to liberate myself and to connect more with my center and connect more with my radiance and myself as art, and to own my beauty more and more, and to really clear away any of those paradigms that I might still be living in that are trying to prove myself through worth about my career. I know I spent most of my youth trying to prove that I was worthy because I was smart, and I was worthy because I wasn't using my body or my beauty to get where I want to go. And so actually later in my life, in my 30s and late 20s, it's been about reclaiming my beauty, because I spent so long trying to hibernate under beauty and hide my beauty so that I could prove that I was smart. And now it's about, okay, I've proven that I'm smart. Now it's about reclaiming my beauty. And so that's what the page is about. And that's what I really find artistically just gorgeous, is like liberation.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm just marinating in your words, in your story. Like I have had the same thing growing up, where I cut my hair really, really short. I wanted to hide my beauty because I didn't want people to think that I was like this airhead dumb blonde, because I'm really fucking smart. And I had this fear especially when I first started my business. And I actually just did a really long, vulnerable post last week, which was pretty terrifying for me to share, around how my like playfulness and light energy has been shamed a lot. And even the post that I did last week was how a mentor actually like shamed me publicly in front of everyone. It was a huge turning point for me in my life a couple years ago, to really just own that part of myself even more deeply, like no matter what other people think, it's like, this is just who I am. I don't care if you don't think it's authentic. It is me. Like,
Totally. I
Yeah.
I I was just feeling that point a lot lately, and I have something to share if you'd like any perspective on that, because I too, I get
Yes.
super excited, super
Yeah.
joyful, super light, and that's all fantastic. There's a point in the excitement when we leave our bodies and we're outside
Mhm.
ourself with the excitement, and that's ungrounded. And so if we can ground our excitement in ourselves and stay in our bodies with that excitement and like pour it inward or pour it out, it
Yeah.
tends to be more received and less startling for people. If that does that make
Yeah. Yeah, which I think is an interesting point because I'm not so I don't like if you're startled and I'm having to do something like to not startle you, that for me is not okay. That goes against my own like integrity of like who I am being. And at the same time, I think I hear you as far as like a leadership perspective,
Mhm.
um, of how we show up as leaders. It's both. And that's why the full range of self-expression is important. If you're only being like the super light, you know, like bubbly and you're only sharing that part of yourself, the reality is that we all have a full spectrum of self-expression. And if you're really super light, like I teach 3 different archetypes, and the lightness is the playful child.
Mhm.
Well, you're probably forgetting to exercise what I call your radiant rebel, which
Mhm.
is like
Mhm.
like grounded, like bold, like really kind of that like fire grounded earth energy. Um,
I love that
so yeah,
system.
yeah. And I think it's a fine line. And this is where like, I really take a stand for women entrepreneurs of like, as long as you feel really good, keep checking in with you because nobody knows what authentic is for you,
Mhm.
and sometimes maybe a group just might not be ready to hold that for you. And then that's not your peeps. And that's what I noticed with
Yes.
that group and that mentor that I was with. They just couldn't hold me.
Mm.
And I've done a lot of
Mm.
like women's work. I've led 2 retreats to Bali. I've led TEDx women events. Like I've led my own women's circles for like, several years. Like I know what it takes to hold like, women and we're all learning together. We're all learning. So yeah, tell us a little bit more your perspective on like the grounding in and then the lightness.
Mm. So it all comes back to living in your center for me. Like I said, when I was in Peru for the first time, I received a lot on how I used to leave my body. And so a lot of my practice has been coming back to staying in my body. And the reason we cut ourselves off is we disassociate because of trauma. So everyone has some traumatic event. It could be something super minor, like being barked at by a dog, or something not minor, like your parents' divorce and it really startling you. We all have trauma, as you know. And so most of us take on some disassociative habits. And so then that causes us to leave not only our center, but our whole body. So a lot of my practice has been about coming back into my body, coming back into my center, staying in my center, and then practices to ground in my center and receive up light from the divine, as well as receive grounded energy up from the earth. And so I have tons of different practices to do that. My most favorite practice right now is from the book, The Magdalen Manuscript. Have you read that?
No, but it's on my list. I just got chills. Like, ooh, okay, prioritizing that.
Oh my gosh. So it's a channeled book by Mary Magdalene, and she talks about the alchemies of Horus, which is a serpent energy through your chakras. And I've kind of taken my own spin on it, but what I do is, so she talks about we have the left and the right, the solar and the lunar sides, the void and the light. So the void is the darkness within you, and then the other side, which is the light. And so now my practice is, if I feel like I'm not in my center, then I'm clearly, there's something in me that's in the dark. And so then I take the light side, I take the light and I merge the light with the dark through my 7 chakras, merging the light with the dark. Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you so two questions. How do you know if you're not in your center? Like what's that feeling or for you?
Negative thoughts,
Okay.
negative emotions, heaviness.
Yeah.
Just I can feel that I'm off. I'm out of alignment. I'm not in my center. I have some heavy energy.
Yeah.
I'm telling myself some illusion. I have a limiting belief that's triggering me, or I'm triggered by something from the outside.
Yes. Okay, good. I think that'll ground it in for people
Yeah.
watching. And then the second question is, so do you visualize like the light and the dark and the serpent energy like moving up from your root to your crown?
Yep, it goes through all the seven chakras, through the spinal cord. So then I visualize the two energies like a snake, and you've seen these visuals, right? The Kundalini energy. So I visualize, as I actually am doing the energy work too, visualize them meeting in each chakra point and getting all the way to the crown. This book recommends stopping at the third eye. I like going all the way to the crown, or even more above. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I've been practicing that, and the reason that I like this practice so much, I've worked with so many different practices. Inner alchemy is my jam. I'm obsessed.
Mm.
And so I really like this one because it's not about going straight into the trigger. It's also not about going around the trigger. uh, it's about taking the trigger, taking the dark, and merging the light in with it. That to me is pure gold.
I'm with you. And I think this is a point that I know it's getting talked about more and more, but the way that you just described it, and I love the visual too, is so important because it's not like, we hear like get rid of the negative thought, and then like replace it with like the good. Well, this is actually like those two parts are going to be inside of us because we're freaking human, right?
Yeah.
So I love that visual, and I feel like that's going to be really helpful for everyone.
I love visuals, and I love doing energetic work. We all learn differently. I learned very
Yeah.
energy and visuals, and I still use mantras as well. So I'll still like name the energy. What is it? Okay, you have a fear of this. And then I bring the light into it, and then I bring a neutralizing mantra that's negating the old after.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's naming the energy, moving the light into it, and then creating a neutralizing mantra to reprogram myself.
Yes. Oh,
So
it's so
what
good.
I'm seeing is like, um, I'm feeling threatened. I have a fear that I'm going to be abandoned, let's say. So then
Mhm.
I bring into the fear of abandonment, I bring the knowing that I'm never going to abandon myself, and then the mantra becomes, I'm here for you. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, so good. Um, we have so much in common. I love this.
I
Like, I'm just like reading these.
know.
I'm like, oh, girl, like, I don't even know where to go on this because there's like so many different things.
So many different
Um,
areas we could go into, but from that one.
I know. I guess I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, I always find it fascinating. Like, my work is really kind of like four phases that I guide the women who work with me through, and that's release, which we're kind of like talking about, right? Release, um, reveal, so like revealing the parts of themselves that they've been hiding or like shying away from sharing in business, or they're like, desires that they've stuffed so far down because they feel like it's not okay. And then reinvention, so like what do we need to reinvent? Do we need to I work with kind of more experienced women entrepreneurs that have at least learned, kind of all the basics and have their business up and running, but oftentimes they're getting stuck in these parts of like, I'm supposed to have this kind of program or I'm supposed to have this kind of offering. So we like really realign and merge together the pieces, based upon what they've revealed and released. And then receive is like my final stage. And within that, like I use a lot of embodiment pieces. I'm curious for you, how do you use these kind of, you know, what I'm hearing is embodiment, really like alchemy. How do you use this in the work that you do?
Mm, well, I can tell you the four steps that I use that are similar to yours.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Cool. Tell me.
So mine's called a compass rose, and the whole idea about it is that there's four directions for the four elements within us. So, and it came to me because I was always looking for the map. I was like, where is the map to tell me where to go when I'm feeling something? Like I just want to know the steps. And so for years, I contemplated over this. And then finally, sometime last year, came very clear that it was like we have like a compass inside of us, 4 directions. So
Yeah.
north is connect with your higher self, connect with source. And that is really the end goal, which is to reconnect yourself to your higher self and to source. Then to the west, which is left, which is past, is embody. So that is identifying the places of yourself that you fragmented yourself from your wholeness, and re-embody yourself with those pieces. So like I said, if you're telling yourself that you have a fear of abandonment, it's because you've cut yourself off from your own connection. So replacing it, practices to replace, like I just talked about with the energetic and the mantras, that would be in the embody. Then down south is root, grounding into your wholeness, grounding into your origins, grounding into your own safety and your own security, and your own solidity within yourself. Especially important for women to ground into their own safety and security and not reach that outside. Then we have, which is this one, becoming. So who are you becoming? Getting clear on where you want to go, what you want to feel like, what you want to create, what you want to experience, and then creating those practices, those inner practices, and those outer action steps in the game plan for you to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of when I was in Peru and we learned about the 4 directions, and they do the ceremony before you do medicine ceremony of calling in like the 4 directions with tobacco. Did you experience that when you were there? Yeah.
I loved the sacred ceremony there. I did so many different little things with medicine, without medicine, all different kinds. I love exploring the ancient traditions all over the world, really. It's such a passion of mine.
Beautiful. And I love how it feels like it's really tied into your work too.
Yeah, so it would be air, earth, water is the dealing with the emotions, and then the fire. Take your fire towards where you want to go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And you're a fire sign. So you really take women, right, where they want to go in their like career and business.
Yes, exactly. So I spent several years working with guiding women through the inner journeys of getting clear on the version of themselves that they want to be, and really clearing away the version of themselves that they no longer are. And I love that work. I still do that work, but something in me was really wanting to bring them to an end result, to a place of like a full new book in their life. And so I still do a lot of the work in like the deep women's work and women's empowerment. And now I'm super passionate about focusing that toward the end goal of creating a business from that place. Because once you clear away the version that you no longer are, which another way to say that is once you reintegrate yourself back into wholeness, then your magic starts to appear and your purpose starts to be very clear. And just by asking yourself a few of the very obvious questions of like, what do you love? What are you good at? What do you want to do with your life? What do people compliment you for? What would you do? How would you be of service if money were no option? You know, you can take these questions, which I call an ideal life vision, an ideal career vision, and then you can come up with someone's roadmap of how they actually want to give themselves to the world and how they actually want to live their life, and then create a business from that place. So I believe that we are in a time where purposeful business and impactful business, service-based businesses are super, super, super needed and super supported by the universe. So I'm here to hold the space for people to go through that journey of reintegrating themselves back into wholeness through that 4-step process, figuring out exactly what they want to do with their life, exactly where they want to go, and then putting it into practice, putting it into a roadmap to then bring it into fruition now, and then launch their businesses from that place.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think, like just how exponentially the industry around coaching and really like being your own businesswoman and doing this amazing work in the world has grown, even since I started my business 10 years ago. It's like, whoa, this is like so cool. And I love it. Like I don't believe that there's competition. Like even if a woman like we have a lot of similarities, but you help, newer people and I help a little bit more advanced. And there's like slight little synchronicities of like, we can trust that like we are our own unique people, and women like us are continuing to help other women like really step into that, which I
Yes.
really love.
I love that you brought up competition, because that was the old paradigm, very much so. And with
Mm-hmm.
the highly saturated market of coaches, that can be a trigger for people. But it's so not about competition anymore. It's totally about collaboration, because it's actually about a collective. It's about a collective, and not and as long. Okay, how can I say this?
Yeah.
We will get to the new world, which is from love versus fear, once a certain amount of the collective is in that paradigm.
Yeah.
So that just proves that it is not about competition. It's the more of us that are here, the easier it becomes for us to then continue grounding in love and not giving into any fear-based programming. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It totally does. And I'm curious, what would you say? Because I was at, I'm part of like a lifetime program of conscious entrepreneurs. And, you know, we get together like once a month for these big events, hundreds of people, and we're doing lots of transformational work and also learning business tools. And what I notice, even in that community, sometimes people that have been in business a while and are doing really well get really scared if there's other people doing things that feel too similar as them. And it breaks my heart, because I don't think, I mean, if I'm really being truthful, of course I've had moments of like, oh my God, you know, like they're doing something similar and there's not enough clients for me or whatever. And I'm pretty good at like moving really quickly towards that. And I've collaborated a lot with other girlfriends that do similar things to me and said, hey, let's come together. I have this idea for a group program. Like, I'm just kind of that person. But I know a lot of people struggle with this feeling of competition. What would you say to women that are really scared?
I would say that we are still very much pioneering this new world. Um, that is, to summarize, it's a world back to love and away from fear. It's still new, and so that means that there needs to be a lot of leaders in the space to shepherd this transition. And so each leader has a specific coding from their lifetime of how they got to where they are. They have a specific skill set, a specific, literally like code on ring, that only they have. Like you and I are very similar, but we still have very different codes. And so someone that can come to me cannot come to you. Someone that can come to you cannot come to me. And yeah, of course, this can get a little blurry, but really it's about each leader has I received this analogy. Each leader is the captain of a ship, and only certain people can be in each ship to get to the new paradigm. And so we each captain our own ship, and there is no competition, because we have our own codes that our people need, or our people need, and your people need. Each people have their own people. Each captain has their own participants that need their specific pathways to get to the new world.
Mm, good analogy. You got some good analogies. I'm loving it. Yeah.
It's an
And
important.
what I'm hearing is it's like trust. Trust is so huge. Trust that your people will be drawn to you the more that you share, you know, who you are and what you stand for, and use your voice and your self-expression and just keep showing up. Um, and trust that you can support your sisters in their own businesses too, and that it's okay, and that by doing that you're actually really creating this beautiful opening of like give and receive and give and receive, which I like we need so much more of.
And I actually believe that we are entering into a new economy where the currency is no longer the dollar. It is actually energy, is another currency that we're stepping into. And so energy exchanges are just as valuable as monetary exchanges. And so there is no competition when love is the currency.
Yeah. Do you get together with any of kind of your peers, other women entrepreneurs in the Venice area?
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
time. I'm doing trades with people of let me give you my codes and you give me your codes and trade. And
Yeah.
it's so helpful. And it's like that is the new world. That's how we used to be. We used to live in a communal living where we would share wisdom freely with each other. And there was no scarcity mindset of
Mhm.
oh no, she's gonna get more clients than me because we have similar messaging. That didn't exist. That came later on. And so now we're very much reverting back to where we were, which is the gifting economy, which is the love currency, which is energetic exchanges. And that's really a much, much higher currency than the dollar.
Yes. Ooh. I'm thinking of so many different things right now. I'm like thinking of my time at the Maori tribe. I went and lived with a Maori tribe as part of yeah, you would love that. We need to talk more, girl.
Yeah,
Like we could talk forever on this interview.
I know.
But just that like feeling that you're talking about of like even just being there on the tribe with them, and there was no technology. I mean, it was still like modern facilities, like there was bathrooms and stuff, but we were all sleeping together, no technology. The elders were there, the kids were running around wild. It was amazing. And there was just this feeling of, I was just telling somebody about this the other night, like time is endless and there is plenty for all, and there is so much love to go around, and you are welcome. And we would sit around and circle and just, whoever had the talking stick could just talk forever. There was no cutting them off. There was no like, we need to get to dinner, we need to do this. And like it was just like that, like like what I feel is abundance. Like that is the true feeling of abundance, is this just complete, there is enough, there is no time, like it's just endless.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I appreciate that. And I know a lot of my time living in rural villages, I felt the same thing. They were so much happier than we are
Yeah.
here with all of these tools that we have, resources, and they were just so much happier, stripped away of all of that and just being with love, being with each other. I felt that way about
Yeah.
the people in Africa that I saw. They were so much happier than us.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and I would say to anyone that is still comparing themselves in that scarcity mindset um, of competition, it's they're still seeking for their validation outside themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's about admitting that, owning that, and doing the work on that. So naming it, being with it, where did it come from? You might have to go deep into the origin point, or maybe you've done the work on it and just keep reprogramming yourself of like, okay, my my basic needs are going to be taken care of. It's not about needing money from the outside. It's not about competition. It's not about external validation. I'm whole within myself and bringing through the light into those channels and doing the work. Everything is an opportunity for more wholeness of yourself. All the triggers are an opportunity to see what's surfacing and to reintegrate more of yourself. It's a game.
Yeah.
It's literally a game.
Yes. Oh, I love that analogy too. I'm like, it's just all a game, you guys. Let's just have fun and let's try things out. And like, yeah, things are going to be super hard because we're human and that's life. And like, let's just keep holding each other and moving forward. And
Yes, and
love that.
if we can shift away from victim mentality of like letting ourselves drown in those negative energies and instead use the practices, use the processes and bring it into the game approach, then it
Yeah.
becomes way easier. And I know I personally, I don't get it every time. Sometimes I go down into negative
Yeah.
thoughts and stuff, but I catch myself faster and faster every time. And
Mhm.
I choose to see myself in the observer perspective versus as the individual in the human body. Instead, I zoom out and I can see the game much easier instead of being in
Mhm.
it and then I'm stuck in the emotions.
Yes. Yeah. I love the analogy. I used to teach emotional intelligence to corporate executives back in my
Wow.
marketing career. That was part of something I brought. I was like, I want to bring this training to the workplace. And they said yes. And so that was like a passion project of mine. And in that book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, there is an analogy for being able to imagine yourself as like an eagle, like the higher self of you as an eagle, looking at the bigger picture above and just being the witness.
Ooh,
And that was like years ago that I learned that. And it's like probably the number one takeaway I learned from teaching the executives. It's just really, yeah.
That nugget, that one is the goals right there. Because if we can just zoom back, which is what I was saying, I received in India, in Peru, what I saw when I was in the Amazon, zoom out of the program that I was running around attracting unavailable men. I could zoomed out, like you said, the eagle, and then I could see it, and I was like, oh wow, okay. So all I need to do is give myself the thing that I'm wanting from them, and I wasn't in it as a victim anymore. I was the observer. That piece, that bit of wisdom keeps coming to me to be further integrated.
Yes. Awesome. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I love you, Maggie.
I
You're
love you.
awesome. Thank you so much for like all of your wisdom. I
Mhm.
feel, yeah, we could totally like continue this interview for so long. And
I
I just
know.
want to start wrapping up. I know you have a beautiful offering of a free masterclass that's coming up. So we want to make sure to share that. But first, I just want to ask you, is there anything else that you feel called to share that you didn't get to share?
Um, just to summarize for everyone that might be listening, it's no matter where you are, no matter how hard it seems, no matter how deep in the trenches of your old life that you might be in, whether if you're in a toxic relationship or you're in a job you hate, or maybe you're really sick. I had all of those happen to me. And no matter where you are, how deep you are, and how much you think that you can't get out of it, you can. You absolutely can. You're not stuck. You're very much capable of transitioning. And I know it might feel out of your reach, but there are so many of us out there that are living examples of our lives were messes and we were not happy, and we took the leap of faith and made it possible to actually be happy. And so I just want to give that knowing to those people out there that no matter where you are, you deserve to be happy and free, and it is possible for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And share with us about the masterclass that is happening really soon. So if you're watching this when the episode drops, it is the day after, I believe. So share with everybody the details for that.
Yes. So it is Wednesday the 20th at 7 p.m. on a Zoom conference call. And I can send the link to you to post. Is that cool?
Yep, I've got it. Yeah, I've got the link. So you'll find the link over on the show notes to this episode, which is jessicatomlinson.com/show-13, episode 13.
Perfect. So it's called Passport to Purpose, and it is a course for people that know that they want to transition out of their lives and into getting clarity on what is it that they actually want, with the goal of eventually turning it into a business. So in it, we're going to go through a process of your ideal life vision, your ideal career vision, getting crystal clear on the life that you want to live, because often we just never ask ourselves these questions, and we have nobody holding the space for us to let ourselves go there and dream. So I'm going to be holding that space for people to get really clear on what it is that they actually want, what they want to feel, what they want to create, what they want to experience, how they want to make an impact, who they want to make an impact for, all these key questions. And then I'm going to be guiding into turning it into an action step plan. So a purpose plan, a roadmap of how to take action toward these goals every single day. Because I find that most people, A, don't know what they want, and most people, B, don't know how to stay productive toward their ultimate goals once they figure the goals out. And so this is going to get crystal clear on what you want, and then turning it into a plan to stay productive every single day so you don't spin in that uncertainty. Because I know myself, I spent many years spinning, and what do I do with my time? And I was doing busy work, and I was procrastinating. And so this roadmap is really a guide to wake up every morning and know what to do with your day so that you reach those ultimate goals. So yeah, that's Wednesday at 7. It's called Passport to Purpose, and you can find the link on this interview.
Yes, on this interview over jessicatomlinson.com/show. You'll find Maggie's interview at the top. So go hop on board with her if you really resonated with this interview. I highly recommend. Now that I know her even more, I can say, yeah, you're in good hands. So,
Oh,
all right, loves. Well, thank you again, Maggie. I'm really, really just loving you and appreciating you and all of your radiance and just walking this path as a spiritual entrepreneur. Thank you.
thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you for believing in yourselves. I love you all.
Beautiful. All right, guys. See you in the next show.